Hey, welcome. My name is Alex Mandossian, and this is all about decision making. This is a show, and this show is all about your decisions, your business, your family, your life. The reason people have an unhappy life or business or lifestyle, if you're not getting what you want, if you find yourself in a predicament, if you're suffering in any way, chances are you don't have a decision-making strategy. We're not taught this growing up. We don't teach this as parents, and most of us don't learn this in school. So today, the topic is all about the power of decisions, and I put some money signs there because decisions can make you more money. The word decisive means to cut off. Decision means to cut off. D is off. Cision means cut. Incision is to cut into. Incision. That's what a surgeon does. Decision means to cut off. Now, most people feel they're losing their freedom and they lose power when they make decisions. And I deliberately didn't make it decision. The power of decisions, because you're making micro decisions every single day. You're probably making 200 to 500 micro little decisions that are inflection points that change your life, and you're not even aware of it. They may be subconscious, unconscious, or they could be conscious. But if you don't have a way of making decisions, if you don't have a structure or a strategy of making decisions, then you're going with your gut. And it's important to go with your gut or your heart, but your heart sometimes makes you lose money. Sometimes your heart will make you go in the wrong direction enthusiastically, and the only thing worse than going in the wrong direction is going in the wrong direction enthusiastically. The power of decisions is all about a very simple concept called the decision triangle. Now, I've learned this from many sources, but one of my colleagues in Australia brought this up to me, and I read his book on a plane headed back, and his name is Simon Bowen, and he basically brought my attention back to the decision triangle, which I've known for some time. Now, decision triangle means three, but it's more than three. To have a decision-making strategy, and this may be new or it may be old for you, but if it's old, why aren't you doing it? If it's new, here's what you can do. It focuses on three priorities because decisions are all about priorities. Now, what's a priority? The priority is knowing the difference between what's important and urgent and doing what's important first. That's a priority. Something that's not a priority is just doing things that are urgent, which are typically important for other people. If you're living into other people's agendas, whether it's in your email inbox or in life, then your priorities are taking a back seat to other people's priorities. Now, let's say that your priorities are important and they're just not urgent enough. Well, chances are you don't have a decision structure that's living the life that you want to live, and you're living someone else's priorities, which may not bring you as much happiness as it could as if you lived a life where you're doing things that are important and not just urgent. Now, you probably do things that are important and urgent, but you want to be in a space where it's not urgent and important. So, for example, if I have a launch, like a marketing launch, in 4 months, that's not urgent, but it's important, and getting launch partners in now, those are good decisions to make. That's a good decision-making strategy because it is a priority for me and I don't have to impose my urgency on someone else. If I have a marketing launch next week and I impose upon a partner, then I really have to call in on a favor because they probably are throwing something out of their priorities or their editorial and marketing calendar to appease me and say yes to me. And that's not typically fair. And I'm approached that way a lot of times, where I'm supposed to be, or I'm requested to be promoting someone else like next week. And it's very, very difficult when my promotional calendar is pre-scheduled for about 6 months. So we're looking for things that are important and not urgent. And the three priorities that we're looking for in this triangle, it's a decision triangle, is OMT, or you can look at it as TOM, as in Tom, or TMO or MTO. I don't care how you look at it, but there's an O at the top. there's an M, and there's a T, and the P is in the middle. Now, what does P stand for? P stands for priorities. What does O stand for? O stands for outcome. What does M stand for? M stands for money. And what does T stand for? T stands for time. So these are the three elements that you have to prioritize. All three do not have the same level of priority. They do not. One has the highest priority, one has the second priority, and one has the third priority. And you have to decide which one is which. Most people don't have this structure in decision making. Why? I have no idea. So O stands for outcome or result, T stands for time, and M stands for money. Some people call it resources. Simon Bowen, my Australia colleague who I was recently on stage with, he calls it resources, and he calls outcome results. Okay? I like to call them outcome, time, and money. And the priorities are what's in the middle. So this is really this. O stands for outcome, T stands for time, M stands for money, and P is in the middle, which makes that whole thing work, called priorities. Now, here is the strategy in becoming a world-class decision maker, because this is what world-class decision makers, whether it's J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter, she has to be world-class. People are after her all the time. She's a billionaire. Or it's Warren Buffett. He has to be world-class. People are asking him to invest in their companies all the time. He says no, 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 and then ultimately yes to very few requests, right? Or Oprah Winfrey, Mehmet Oz, Anderson Cooper of CNN. All these people are great decision makers because they have to be, because people are after them with their own priorities, with their own agendas, and they have to choose the ones that work for them if it's a good fit. So top priority is what you're after first. Middle priority is what you're after second. And bottom priority is after what you're after third. So what are you after as your top priority? The outcome, the time, or the money? It's not always the outcome. It's not always the time, and it's not always the money. I'll give you an example that I recently read, and you can decide, what's the top priority for a decision that you got to make. Your top priority could be time, or it could be money. It doesn't always have to be outcome. But you have to decide what's the number one priority, outcome, time, or money. What's the middle priority, outcome, time, or money, and what's the bottom priority? Well, what's easier, picking the bottom priority first or the top priority first? For me, picking the bottom priority first is the easiest, and then through a process of elimination, I figure out what's middle and what's top. Are you getting this? It's a strategy, and it's to be a better decision maker. Now, indecision is fundamentally natural for all of us. Indecision, the inability to make a decision, is a fundamental natural thing that happens within us. Question is why? Okay, it's not your fault. Okay, it is your responsibility. It's not your fault. Why is indecision? Why is that way with my children, for example? I was playing the game of Monopoly on the evening of Thanksgiving. It's typically a tradition with us, and they were being indecisive on what properties to put houses and hotels on in the game of Monopoly. If you've heard of the game, if you haven't heard of the game, go to Google and check out Monopoly. And then they were trying to scheme against each other in trying to beat me, but they had no strategy. They were going after Park Place and Boardwalk because they're super expensive, but I had a strategy, and my strategy was to get as many hotels and homes on one side of the board so I can dominate one side so they would land on one of my homes or hotels. Now that's a strategy I take, and that's my top priority, to buy one side of the board, not to haphazardly buy different sides of the board. And that's a strategy I stuck with, and so far I'm winning. It's usually a 2-day game, and right now they're super depressed because they have no money with Monopoly, and I'm winning right now, and they look at me as evil, But I'm not Donald Trump here. I'm just dad, trying to win this game of Monopoly. But they were indecisive. My children were. Because fundamentally, by making a decision, what happens? You give up choices. You give up options. Is that bad? No, that's great. Because think of what a camera does. When you look through a camera lens, if you have a lot of things in the foreground, what happens? Everything's out of focus. That's called overwhelm. That's stress. That's worry. But if you take one thing in focus and take something else out of focus, then what happens? Then you have a priority. You do one, and then you do another one, then you do another one. So think of yourself as a digital camera. Put one thing in a focus every time, and as one thing comes in focus, you won't get overwhelmed. That is priority. Do what's important first, not just urgent. All right.